Okay. Okay. Okay, well, thanks, you guys. Like I said before, I appreciate you guys coming on a Saturday. One of the good things for you guys, the fact that it's only a 20-minute plane ride for me to come over from Oahu, I only have a few pages of stuff. If it was a longer plane ride, I'd have more to tell you. But I'm the new administrator. I just started at State Parks as the administrator in September, but I was the assistant administrator for 6 years before that. And I was one of the folks that was volunteered by the previous administration to set up the permitting process once we took over the custodial jurisdiction of the water. But just humor me a bit. I need to give you guys the context of how I look at this park and this situation as the state park manager. And as always, you know, I have to talk about our budget, but I'm not going to go into great detail. But just keep in mind, in 1993, the state park budget was $8 million. We had less parks, we had less patrons, less usage. By 2010, our state park budget in terms of taxpayer money was down to $3.9 million. And we had more parks, and we had more tourists and more visitation. Over those years, the legislature made it loud and clear that we needed to make our own money if we were going to maintain a viable park system. So by 2015, just this last year, we make more money now than we collect from you guys as taxpayers. We make just about $4.3 million. We get about $4 something from the ledge. We're at about a $9 million operating budget now. But keep in mind, in 1993, we had 8. Here we are in 2015, we're at 9. That's 22 years later. We only have $1 million more a year to play with. Diamond Head right now went from 1,000 people several years ago. We're at 3,000 people. So patronage is up, and one of my pet peeves is that, you know, the visitor industry uses our state park system and a lot of our resources in order to promote visitation, and yet we never seem to see the financial payback and the reinvestment in our state park system, which is it's yours and ours together in order to deal with those impacts. And a lot of what we're talking about today is the direct result of visitor impacts. You know, arguably, we have some of the best lands of rare natural beauty in the state, and we have immeasurable cultural resources. We have Iolani Palace. We have the Royal Mausoleum up at Mauna Ala. Kealakekua Bay State Historical Park is an amazing combination of both. Amazing scenic resources and arguably one of the most historic parks under our jurisdiction, and incredible, you know, cultural value that you can't even put a price tag on. But I'm going to share with you some of the management issues statewide because there's this theme, and I want to call it the end of the road syndrome. We have these parks across the state that typically are beautiful coastal properties at the end of roads. Over in Kauai, at Poli Holly, at the end of the road there, we have beautiful Barking Sand Beach, and we have huge problem with four-wheel drive vehicles on the sand and issues with, you know, cultural sites and dunes getting hammered. At Haena, right across the way, we're doing a master plan process just like this, and I have staff there today actually doing the same thing that we're doing here. But there we have over 600,000 visitors a year, and locals are getting squeezed out of that area because it's the end of the road, and Ki'i Beach is gorgeous. On Oahu, we have Kaena Point. At the end of the road, we have this vast four-wheel drive area that's just gotten hammered over the past 30 years that we've had to initiate, like we did at Kealakekua Bay, a permitting system. But in that case, there's a gate with a combo, and you get a sticker in order to get in, and you get the combo on a weekly basis. Sand Island, we have a huge homeless issue. That's a whole nother end of the road issue that's hitting us statewide, and the counties are dealing with it too. And then McKenna Beach on Maui, end of the road, parking issues and human waste issues. And that brings us to Kealakekua Bay, you know, end of Napopo Road. We all know the parking issue. We all know the chaotic commercial use issue. I'm acutely aware, and many of you are here that I've had long conversations with about the community tension associated with tourists and the rental of vessels to get on the water. Huge cultural site impacts at Ka'avaloa Flat, which we've gotten a handle on, but there's still impacts happening there. And then marine mammal impact associated with the patronage of folks in the water there. All of this, though, the common theme is visitors, both at Haena and at Kealakekua. If you take away the visitor industry element, they go back to quiet, sleepy, kind of underused resources. But with social media and the robust visitor industry, that isn't going to change. So we have to make plans now to try to deal with those impacts. I do want to talk about the previous planning efforts. And I don't know if Uncle Gordon is still here, but we were legally challenged and failed in a previous planning effort. And I will say in front of all you guys, honestly, I'm glad we were. I think that plan was a little bit grandiose and inappropriate for how culturally sensitive Kealakekua Bay is. And we've adjusted our expectations and we've scaled this plan down so that it's more what I would call site appropriate. The old plan had visitor center and buses, and yes, the goal was to try to move the visitor traffic topside, but it wasn't our land, and I think given how sensitive Kealakekua is, I think it's better that we squeeze it down and try to scale it down and come up with controls. There's a few things that are different compared to the last planning effort. State Parks now has jurisdiction of the water. In the previous plan, we didn't. So another good reason why we're doing planning now is we have the historic wharf under our jurisdiction, and we have the water, which we weren't excited to take that property from our division of boating. We weren't looking for, trust me, we didn't want the management challenge of trying to regulate all the vessels. But I had to admit it made sense from a government standpoint to have one entity in charge of both the fast land at Hikiau, the wharf, the water, and at Ka'avaloa. So I think it was a good choice. It kind of punched us in trying to learn how to regulate vessel traffic on the water. And for better or for worse, many of you will have opinions about it. The permitting process is what it is, but it was an attempt at trying to get a handle and get control and try to minimize the impacts to Ka'avaloa Flat and try to reduce the community tension at Napopo Landing on the wharf side. But at the end of the day, you know, Kealakekua Bay is way more than kayaks and snorkeling. And we all know this. And the plan and these various scenarios that you're looking at are an attempt to remind everybody and have us plan for the future in a matter that is appropriate for this location. The other thing that's different that many of you may be aware of is the federal government is moving towards a type of regulatory authority on the spinner dolphins. And the plans that you see, the plan shows an area where there's proposed areas for limits. There's a lot of tension between the state and the federal government on federal oversight of state water. But one of the things, again, that makes it, I suppose, good timing that State Parks has jurisdiction of the water is we have the ability to close areas. So if, in fact, we go in that direction, we could close an area off to allow the spinner dolphins to actually sleep for a change instead of people going up to them all the time. There's three things that I personally want to share with you that I want to see come out of this effort. Four things, actually. The first one is we desperately need the Chapter 343 environmental approvals to put in a waterless toilet at Ka'avaloa Flats. And this process gives us the legal ability to do that, let alone chase the money down to do it. That's another issue. But we have to go through this process to legally place a comfort station there. And we do have a spot that we think fits culturally there. And it's one of the byproducts I need to see come out of this. The second one is we need off-site parking to try to reduce vehicular load in front of Hikiau and that road. And we're proposing at part of our land at the Gaspar Coffee Mill, the off-site parking up there, and to try to turn the area in front of Hikiau and that area more of a pedestrian use type of area. The third and maybe the most critical, which we don't really need the plan to do this, but this plan allows me to explain to you what we're thinking about this. We need a management presence at Napopo Landing. You know, we have the gate up. There's 3 companies that have authorization to use it by our board. We need to place an entity there, and I'm not going to get into the weeds on what that entity would be. It could be a community or nonprofit. It could be a concession. But what we need is we need to manage the front door. We don't have the capacity as a state park entity with staffing to do that. But if we have the capacity to then place an entity there with staff at Ka'avaloa, we could then start to essentially deal with the transiting of people and try to reduce the impacts at Kawaloa by having staff on site. And the two ways to do that is by concession or some kind of management agreement. But here's the fourth thing that I'm going to close with, and thanks for your patience. I do not want to produce another plan that sits on a shelf. We have too many of those, and it's really important to me as a manager who uses the resource. We really need your input. Your input is valid, and we're going to listen to it. We've given some scenarios. Nothing is cast in stone. But keep in mind, what we need is a plan that we could actually implement. That's why we've shrunk this down. It's a lot more modest than previous plans. But depending on the outcomes of this, I think with not a lot of capital investment, we could achieve some of those goals that I've talked about earlier that we need to manage this area. Okay, thanks for listening. I feel better moaning about my budget. I appreciate you guys listening. I want to introduce Keikoa Kalhuiva. We're really fortunate that Governor Ige appointed Keikoa as our land deputy. And we brought Keikoa down there for a site visit several months ago. And I asked Keikoa to come and just share, whatever his mana'o is on his experience going down there and a few other words. So, okay, thanks you guys.
Thank you very much, Kurt. Aloha kako. Actually, I just wanted to first of all thank all of you very, very much for taking the time to join us today. It's my personal commitment as First Deputy of the Department to ensure that we engage communities in the work that we do. Without community input, support, buy-in, we will have another project on the shelf, and I would not want that to happen here today. So thank you for your interest. This is a very historic, culturally significant place that we want to honor and be respectful of. So with that, I'm very happy with the fruitful discussion that we're about to have. Personally, as a musician, an entertainer, as I think what Kurt was alluding to, one of my favorite songs is Hali'ilua. And I didn't realize till last summer visiting Napo'opo'o or Ka'avaloa that is the piko, that is Hali'ilua that I often sing about. And so I'm personally committed to seeing this project through. So does Chair Case, and I'm sure the governor as well. So again, mahalo for your honest feedback today, our civic and respectful engagement. If there's anything else that you would like to ask of me, I'm more than happy. I'll be on the side just listening in, but feel free to approach me with any questions or thoughts you might have. Mahalo.
Aloha, I'm John Kirkpatrick. I wanted to say a couple words about the process. Next step is to make sure everybody gets a chance to say something and say it in front of everybody else. Malia, how is that going?
So I'll be doing my best to write down bullet points of what everyone's comment is as they have their turn. So that will be projected on the screen. If
Malia writes something and projects something on the screen that totally misrepresents you, take a deep breath and come back and talk to her very gently later. Because she's so much better at typing this than I am. Okay? Excuse me. We listen to you. You write down comments. You send us comments. There's a comment sheet up there. Every sheet we've handed out reminds you that you can always send in the comments to an address at bchdesign.com. Basically, we look at everything we've learned. We've looked at what we've learned from studies. We've looked at what we've heard from you. We've looked at the whole process, and we turn to state parks and say, okay, now's the time. We're going to have to decide what it is you want to do here. State Parks comes up with a preferred alternative, and we go into an environmental impact statement process. So the next thing that's going to come out of this, hopefully sooner than later, is an EIS announcement that says, this is the action State Parks wants to take at Kealakekua, Kealakekua Bay, and that's an EIS preparation notice, which will then, and you can comment on that, and it'll be out in public, and we can comment on it to those written comments. So You can make our lives really, really complicated, as well as in response to our making your life complicated. Then we finish an EIS, then the master plan is finalized, state park works to get whatever permits it needs for what it wants to do in the conservation district, and hopefully the whole process finishes with us. Everybody being happy with a better Kealakekua Bay State Historic Park. Today, we're now going into the discussion section. We want to hear what people have to say. And as I think Kurt said, as Carrie said earlier, the meeting, we only scheduled this meeting to go until 4 o'clock, but certainly we're going to sit around and talk and listen as long as it takes. Thank you very much. We had planned to ask the people who are at the various stations to give us just bullet points of these are some of the things we've heard. Are you ready to do that? John? Sure. From here? Yeah, might as well. Let's just do it really fast. John Clark was standing by the action alternative A.
So anyway, Tracy and I manned alternative A back here. These are the 3 bullet points that we got from the 28 comments that were posted, and also from what people told us earlier. Number 1, pretty much everybody seemed to be in favor of alternate A. They thought it was a positive first step, and that it would lay a good basis for any plan that happens for Kealakekua Bay State Historical Park. The second thing we heard the most had to do with enforcement. People are still concerned about the rules and the regulations that are in place now in the park, and that may be in place in the future, and exactly who's going to enforce it. And then the last thing, the third bullet point that we heard the most had to do with parking. And this was at the top of the historical trail that leads down to the monument. People want to know how the state park or the state is going to handle parking at the top of the trail. And just real quickly, Tracy, if I could just turn to you and maybe you could comment on what the land situation is up there at the top of the trail.
One of the parks that I take care of, or help take care of, the archaeological resources are here at Kealakekua State Park. To get to John's question about how are we state parks going to address the parking issues up at the top of Kealakekua Road, is one that's actually not really part of state parks. That's actually county land up there, and hopefully we can be able to have further communication with the county and hopefully come to some type of resolution with them on how to create some type of parking up there. As far as us state parks, we do not have plans of creating parking up at the top of Kealakekua Road. So that's something that we'll have to be talked further about with the county. Yes.
Is there any thought on the bypass that could serve as a parking spot?
There might be, but I am not the person to actually answer that question in a correct manner. Yes.
I'm one of the property owners of the park. When is the time to the conference on that now?
Yeah, you could address that now, but right now we're addressing what's going on within the state park itself, and that portion of the property is actually, like I said, on council.
Is it time for you to talk about this?
I'm gonna, as a facilitator, again, we're using up our hour for public input. All of these guys will be here after the meeting and still time for, you guys agreed to our ground rules. Yeah, we gotta stick to a schedule or nobody gets to share evenly, okay? Okay, so I'm going to ask you folks. Sir,
First of all, who has the authority to do all of this thing? Who's the leader of this place? Who? Who is the leader?
who's the leader?
Who's the leader of who is making? Who's responsible for all of this?
We all are.
Yeah. No, this is all to do with our land, it's sacred, it's not rules. I always come down. I like to know who are the players in this.
This is a community
No,
meeting.
This is a community meeting being organized on behalf of state parks. Both the deputy director of DLNR.
And the company, they don't know nothing, this is the way to do them, man. I've always been that. Manakil says it all. Okay? Let me tell you guys about, I get some papers over here. In fact, you guys will get papers from us, from the Hawaiian Kingdom, from the government. The land is sacred, kapu, the heiau, everything is underneath the Kunahikis. Is underneath the people that live in Nakoko, in Ahakua. That's their good land.
Yay, this is your guys, the community's meeting.
These are the people that represent the land of our country.
Who wants to see this meeting continue in its form? Can I have hands?
This is what it is.
Community's participation.
This is open to the public.
Yes,
Right.
we are the public.
Yeah, that people have agreed to participate by.
Okay, I'll call you 2 minutes. But I started to get you at, who are you speaking?
I'm a neutral party that's just making sure our meeting goes.
This is not your Kuleana to do with the land and our resources.
Uncle David, speak what you needed to speak regarding
That's what you need.
the access.
Let the people speak. The people that live in Napopo, that's the one.
Oh, David.
They live
Take it away.
in this Ahakua. That's their Kuleana.
Everybody
It's not the county or the state or the federal. They have no jurisdiction over our land or our resources, period.
You folks will all get a chance to speak.
Yeah.
What I want is the summary to be
But this is
shared.
what it is.
Okay, can
This
we?
is what you guys should be talking about, who owns the land, and whose Kuleana is this, and who's responsible for this. And bring our Kupuna and our Konahiki, that's the one, and our Kikiokaina, Wanohana. This is public. This is not you guys Kuleana, the state or the county or the federal government. This is Hawaii. This is our kingdom. Public law 103.15 will tell you all of that. We have the right to control our own country. You guys are interfering. It's an act of war. Watch out what you guys doing over here. This is one country. Okay? This is not the kind of state of Hawaii. This is not the federal government. I speak for my Ohana. Okay? As a Konahiki. That's who's supposed to be up here representing the land and the people. And the Kupuna, they all come in this whole package deal. It's not all of these other people. This is the people that lives there, that knows the land, and they knows the history, and they knows everything in the resources over there. And it's our Kuleana. It's not your Kuleana.
We are going to get everyone's input, but I want the summaries to go ahead and.
Just be aware what you guys doing. You guys be served notice. Okay?
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your.
Let the people to speak.
John, are you done? Okay,
Alternative B was the recreational historical balance alternative focus. And some of the repeated comments had to do with positive feedback on providing individuals and non-commercial kayak, paddleboard, small vessel access from the landing to launching the landing and having it be free. There was some concern on how, if there's a concession there helping, are they going to give preferential treatment or block any of the residents from having access and give any kind of preference to their paying customers? In terms of, there was concern about safety, making sure all areas of the park are safe, including hiking down Pa'aloa Trail. There's still concern, even with toilets there's still no water, there's limited emergency future. Also, from the new proposed parking lot on the gas bar mill side to the landing, if you have to walk, people that walk along County Road, not the road, there's concern about pedestrian safety because it is a county road, not the state road. So are there discussions with the county on how to improve that for pedestrians? The last one was just the new parking lot in general. Is it controlled? There's concerns if it's unmanned, concerns about traffic congestion, about noise to residents, and just a general concern about increasing the number of people in the park.
Okay, again, I'm going to hold comments. These guys will be here after the meeting. John had the last group, so I'm going to let him do a summary.
I did alternative C and met much of this. There were people who were interested in the more cultural landscape alternative, but still there were questions about impacts on the road and the neighbors, whether developing the lot on the gas bar site would create noise and other problems for people basically across the street and next door. There were interested questions about the canoe shuttle. Some people liked it. Some people liked the idea of this as an alternative to kayak rentals and reductions in both the number of commercial kayaks and the number of power boats. I heard about power boats. I'm not sure how we're going to tie that in, but I heard about it loud and clear, and I want to recognize that. And also concern for people who do have their own vessels, kayaks, or stand-up paddle boards here, concerned about whether and how they could launch from the wharf. So we talked about all these things. We've heard some suggestions about these things, but I want to hear more from you. Brenda Ford, the ex-council member, made a point to me that I'd like her to repeat to everybody as the first input in our general discussion. So with your permission, I'd like her to go first.
Thank you. The reason I want to go first is I want to lay the parking lot issue to rest if I possibly can. On Napapo Road, that is county land, or county road, the state has no responsibility for a parking lot. That information was absolutely correct. While I was on the council several years ago, I passed two pieces of legislation. One to put a small parking lot of about 18 stalls at the head of Kapaloa Trail for parking with water and signage and all that, and gated at night so that nobody would use it for drugs or anything. And another parking lot at the intersection of the highway and Napapo Road, a bus stop park and ride that could also be used for parking. I negotiated with the local families for purchase and or lease of these parcels of land. The Kanoi administration has sat on these for years and hasn't done anything except PO the local families that I've been working with. So the parking lot issue has been dealt with, but the person you should be going after is the mayor of this county. That's the problem. It's not the state on the parking lots, and I hope that they can rectify their behavior with the Smith family so we can move forward. Thank you for letting me talk.
Okay, Jay, we're gonna...
Thank you, Carrie. I was asked to come here. I was even asked to give testimonies, and I told everybody that I talked to that I wasn't going to give a testimony. I've been doing this now for 40 years with the same company and the same plan. And this time, I guess because of my age, I decided I just want to listen to what they have to offer, take the good things about this plan, embrace that, take the ones that are not so good, make it better, and see how we can live with that. And so, but having said that, I do want to, I needed to stand up and say something when the question about the trail to Kapaloa is brought up, and the state's position in not wanting to do anything outside of the 40 acres of their jurisdiction down at Kapaloa, saying the trail belongs to the county, and they are correct. And I was told this just recently by a very good friend of mine that he went to the state and they said, hey, we don't want to deal with the parking outside of Kapaloa. That's county's jurisdiction. And I said, well, I'm not surprised because it is. However, I have since made contact with our councilwoman, Miley. I've since made contact with Billy Kinoy. Hopefully, I'm going to meet with him this coming Saturday at the top of Kapaloa Trail. Now, here is a simple resolution to this huge problem. And I think the huge problem goes beyond what we're hearing here. The huge problem about the access to Ka'awaloa Beach, when the state of Hawaii came back in 2012 and says nobody can land at Ka'awaloa from the ocean. No one can get on shore from the ocean. That prompted all of these kayak users, all these user groups to now hike down the trail. Well, they began to do that. Today we have 60, 80, 100 people a day going down to Ka'awaloa Trail. There still is no infrastructure there. There's no toilets, there's no waters. Ka'awaloa, for those of you who may not know, up until 1824, was perhaps one of the most sacred pieces of real estate in all the state of Hawaii, maybe next to Mauna Kea. But it was, for us, the most sacred piece of real estate. Today, it is nothing more than a commercial sewer dump. There is where people defecate every day, piss every day on sacred lands, on sacred sites, and even behind sacred burials down at Ka'awaloa. Talking to the county says, you know what, we got plans to do this other parking down the road with the Smiths, but that's not happening. The only way we can take care of our sacred land in Ka'awaloa and end this for now is for the county of Hawaii to grow some olos and stop access on Ka'awaloa Road till a management plan for Ka'awaloa is established. We only got this problem when kayaks were stopped from landing at Ka'awaloa. That's when this problem on the trail began, which is since 2012. So, you know, it's really simple to take care of this desecration of our most sacred site. Tell the county. I told the state, put a fence up down by your property line at the end of the trail down below. Let the tourists walk all the way down there, find out they cannot go beyond there. Let them fight with the county. Let them go back to the county and demand some action from the county. If the county is going to be pushing this responsibility off to nobody. So I think that's the end of my testimony. But that's where our big problem lies today, and that's the remedy, is to have a moratorium where we stop all user groups from Ka'awaloa till we have a management plan there to protect our resource. Thank you.
I'm not against development, but none of this says anything about the cultural practices or the residential practices in this plan. So number one, I want to make a comment regarding our commenting process here. You come every 7 years and give us only 2 minutes to talk. That's not enough. Kekoa, you talked about engaging. This is how we need to engage. Talk to the residents. Right here, they all live down there.
Thank you very much.
Okay, right there, Auntie Brenda. That's the residents. Go down Napopo Village and talk to them. Yeah? Because we never have enough input, and you only come every 7 years. And every time when we look at this, there's nothing for us. You get one process in here that's for the culture, and all it says is we gotta give them a permit.
Yeah.
Why we gotta give them permission from the government? I can see one notification process, but one permitting process, we've been doing stuff down there for all these generations. You guys don't even know what we do down there. We hold makahikis every year, opening and closing. Cousin Nani over here, myself. They tell us we need one permit. For what? My kupunas taught me how to do this. And now I need one permit. My kupunas never said I needed one. I understand that community evolves. I understand that. But come talk to us and put it in a plan. Because that changes up every single plan, including the no action plan. That's all I got to say, mahalo.
Hello everybody, to former city council member, friend of course, Myrie Davis, Gordon Leslie, and everybody else, all the city officials. My name is Lawrence Ha'ai. I'm a retired guide from the Parker Ranch and Kaua Ranch. I worked for 35 years driving tour buses around this island. I am a state certified guide. I have been involved with Hawaiianness since I found out that I was a Hawaiian as a little boy. Ka'awaloa, since I got 2 minutes, I'm going to be real brief. It has been my vision of Ka'awaloa since a little boy that that place is a sacred place. Palikaku are the cliffs for the burial bones of our kings and queens. It was at Kealakekua that the bones were removed at the City of Refuge and taken to Kealakekua and placed in there. And now we've got tons of people going along the cliffs and removing our iwi and as well as our artifacts. Marion Gray, state archaeologist, now a state ranger or a national park ranger. She said, if I could take a gun and shoot everybody I see walking on the cliffs up there, I'd have shells this high next to my uncoat, next to my chair. So some of the statements made are valid. We need protection of our trails. We can't go in there right now. Thank you, West Hawaii Today and Tribune Herald, for just blowing us out the door with your headlines, last week? Oh, come on down to Kawaloa and check this place out. Okay, that's crazy. We're not even ready for that. Defecation, trash, it's unfathomable. Let me get to the subject. Okay, my vision was to turn Kawaloa into a sacred place, as it is sacred, as a headquarters for the nation of the Hawaiian people. Headquarters, okay? I've already talked to Nainoa Thompson. He's all thumbs up on this. Making it our headquarters for the Polynesian Voyaging Society. That's their headquarters, Kawaloa Bay. The Kalia will be located there. That's what we'd like to see. A cultural park. We would like to see that also take place to deal with tourism as well as other things dealing with culture. Hawaii Ho'oponopono, when the Hawaiian people come over here and want to interact with what's going on with their islands or whatever, this is the place they will come. And it will be closed to the public on those days and we will have our interactions. But other than that, we will build it beautiful. Grass shacks, whatever, it will be restored to its beauty. This is what we're hoping in my vision. We have approximately, correct me if I'm wrong, City Council, 2 warehouses in the old industrial area filled with iwi. These are human bones awaiting disposition. It was also in my vision to build a huge lava dome there at Kawaloa to bring our iwi to a place where they can rest forever. Our presence of Hawaiians being there, who knows better than us to protect Palikapu? Who knows better than us for environmental impact? Who's the environmental impact for? Is it for the mainland people or is it for Hawaiians? It's for Hawaiians. It's like, what are they doing? Are they stepping on our toes here or there? We already know. So we don't need too much environmental impact money spent in those areas. Mary Monarch Hula Festival. My cousin, Uncle George Neope, told me I would dance. I would hope to live to see the day that I could dance the Mary Monarch at Ka'avaloa. Can you imagine all the thousands of people that could come there and enjoy that instead of Auntie Edith Kanakaole Stadium in Hilo? The makahiki could be held there. You're worried about officers. Who will protect this area? We need people to watch over this area. Well, let the Hawaiians take care of that. We will work with DLNR. We'll work with the state. But let the money come to the Hawaiian people. How do I say, America? You can have your cake, but you can't eat it too. Okay? Some things are just too sacred. It's beyond you. We lost our virginity at Ka'avaloa. The whole world discovered us there. And it means more, way much more to us than a state park or a county park. That we don't know 10 years from now the restrooms are going to be like they are today all around the state. Let the Hawaiian people take control, and maybe even with a handshake, we can work together. And a cultural park, Ho'oponopono, Hawaiian immersion schools, Mary Monarch Hula Festival, Hawaii Voyaging Society headquarters. If Hawaiians can turn the pu'uhonua by putting in grass shacks and all that kind of stuff, how much more beautiful do you think we can turn this place into be? And the sacredness, we can honor that. And we'll show and teach everybody else how to honor it as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I had Wiley wanted to share.
Mahalo, Gordon. What I see here, I'm here as a Native Hawaiian and as your council member. My heart agrees with Shane. This place is so special that it cannot be put into words. So, as a council member, I am saying it is not about a parking lot first and foremost. It is not about whether we have a recreational center down at Kealakekua Bay. My ancestors are buried in Ka'avaloa, as Gordon knows. So it is not about that. I appreciate what's happening here, but no mention of a cultural impact statement was ever noted. But I believe when an EIS is triggered, a cultural impact statement must be done. And that is where I hang my hat and my hope that all the things that we as natives are speaking of, and I have to be very unbiased in my statements and in my position. For one thing, I know that it is not the fault of the administration whether there's no parking lot up there. I've had meetings with the administration. It's a legal issue, and so I will not lay blame on the administration. I will work with them so that, number one, we have a mayor that feels exactly how Gordon, Shane, and all of us feel about the place. That is unprecedented. For this island to be exposed to something that's being planned right now, I'm sorry, we have to be very careful on how we move forward. And that is why what Shane said about community input from the families that live down there for generations is very important. A cultural impact statement will do that, and you are required by law. We fought for that. We won a Supreme Court decision that made government agencies do a cultural impact statement. So it's very dear to me, and I just want to raise that issue so that now when we move forward, we know what our responsibilities are. I know what my responsibilities are as a council member. I will work hard so that the people of this beautiful island do not get shortchanged, whether it's cultural, recreational. So that's all I have to say, and thank you very much.
My name is David Smith, and I live at the top of the Ka'awaloa Trail. I've lived there all my life. My cousin was Henry O. Pukaia. And there's also a Christian history in Ka'awaloa that has to be respected. And I like the plans they're down in Napo'opo Bay that they're trying to create, but I wish they'd put it more towards the keiki. When I was a little kid, I used to go to Pu'o Hononau, and we could have our birthday parties down there with one package of Miko hot dogs. And we used to have a good time. National parks came in, we can't even enjoy it down there. On the lava rocks where the fishermen used to dry up paddle, all you see is tourists crammed on the lava. There's no place for our keikis to enjoy. And Napo'opo is a special place. Ka'awaloa is a special place. It has history. And I think, to me, it should be an educational park for our keikis to learn about all the people that live there. The whole history, not just one side, and leave politics out of it. The politics is what's ruining it for our keikis. It's ruining it for me. Because I used to enjoy it. I used to go down Ka'awaloa with one can of Vienna sausage, my pole, and have a good old time down there. And fish with nobody, no kayaks coming across the bay like Captain Cook was landing. And the mayor's not at fault for not having parking. We told him no. We had a better idea, which what we thought was when the bypass goes across and just starts to turn up, make a road going in, access from over there, which is closer. And there's property owners willing to donate land for a parking lot. And then make the hike down there closer. I've had 3 people I had to take to the hospital from overexposure. They were stuck up all night in the bushes. And they looked bad. And I took them to Kona Hospital.
So until, I agree with Gordon, until you define what your park is and how you're going to run it and everything, just kind of close down the trail part of it. Because the kayak people, they have their people that patrol for the, you know, the waste and stuff like that, supposedly. I don't know if that's true or not.
Start wrapping up.
Yeah, okay, just to wrap up, until you have a plan for the trail part, which is not, those people are not controlled, close it down till you have a plan on how to do all that. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Both of you.
My name is Jonathan Drogi. My son is named after Alamo Dorval, which I know. Some of you may not, and it's sensitive. That doesn't correlate with more commercial activity, and I am a tour operator, but it goes completely against the culture and its historical values to expand the commercial activity. So I oppose all three of those over there. You know, the bay is historical and sensitive. The bay is suffering. The environment is suffering. That is a marine preserve. A coral reef can only handle 8 divers a day. And how much hundreds is being in there every day, no more day off. That to me is ridiculous. Also, as Auntie said over there, a thorough cultural impact needs to be done before taking into consideration any of these plans. You have to do due diligence and due process. That is the law. And until then, all of this needs to stop. You guys have to figure out, start from the point one, which is the environmental and then the cultural. Without that, we don't have nothing. So all the money or the kala that you guys plan to make off of this is not good for our children, as the uncle said over there. So also, I'd like to make mention that I know for a fact that DoCare and DOBAR are not properly funded at this time to manage this, and to thrust something else onto them at this point in time is unreasonable to them. We have unreasonable expectations of 8 officers on the Kona side to manage all of this, and you don't want to give them funding. It needs to stop. The development needs to stop right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Aloha, my name is Leanne Leslie, and I am a lineal descendant to Ka'awaloa. I represent Defenders of Hawaii's Resource and also the other half of our boat tour operation. Dad, could you please stand up? This is Richard Leslie, my father. It is his father that was the last Hawaiian that had resided at Ka'awaloa. It is our birthright. And what basically, first and foremost, is state of Hawaii is in a very unique circumstances right now to determine the jurisdiction of the state of Hawaii, let alone America, on Hawaii. So we are in a very intense moment to determine, and it's in the Supreme Court, on who exactly does have jurisdiction. So until that is done, we should not be moving forward, for one. 2, yes, the culture. That bay is not just Kealakekua Bay, it's called Kapu Kapu, which is significantly sacred. 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 She is not a prostitute that you will pimp out and take a profit from. No, you do not put a price tag on my mother. That is where I grew up. That is where I learned how to live, how to hunt, how to fish. And thank you, Dad. And it is our birthright, and it is every kekioka'aina of this land's birthright to have a say on this. Please put aside and reprioritize yourselves. First and foremost, it is the integrity of the resources. Without the resources, we are nothing. We have nothing. No one will pay a dime to come and just see us. No, not at all. We get one shot. Second will be the public recreational use is the priority after the integrity of the resources have been properly managed. And then if there is any room left over, then we can maybe talk about profit and commercialization. But until then, you guys are, I'm going to refrain from profanity, is very backwards. And we have to refocus ourselves. What is really at stake here? Who actually does have jurisdiction? The questions, the simple questions. Where's the treaty? Where's the title? Those are questions that cannot be answered. Remember, it is a conservation district, meaning if you wrapped it up, state park, state DLNR, whatnot, if you wrapped it up, will it be the same way that you found it? No, because there's plans to desecrate, to do construction, to alter, restore, whatever the case is. And that is absolutely against all of Hawaii's belief, our culture's belief. Yep, I'll wrap it up. All right, thank you.
Thank you. I agree with Gordon and Davis regarding closing the trail. It should be stopped. It should be closed off at the head of the trail on Navajo Road. We shouldn't let people go down there and get into trouble. Every week, we have somebody who goes into almost heat stroke, and we have to send a chopper in and pull them out of there, and then they come up into our subdivision. Some of us in our subdivision are here, and they have to land on the land inside of our subdivision where the ambulance can meet them. The ambulance cannot go down Pablo Trail, and they can certainly not go up. It's major four-wheel drive. So if we're not going to do anything to fix the problem down at Monument and on Pablo, then we need to stop people going down that trail. And it's not going to take more than just a barricade, because they'll go over the barricade. It's costing the county thousands and thousands of dollars a year to send a chopper out every week, if not multiple times a week, to pull people out of there who don't go down with enough water, despite the signs that are out there, and get into trouble, and then come into our subdivision. We have gracious people in our subdivision who don't mind them landing there, but if we put in orchards on those particular parcels, there will be no place left to land. And that's the only access our fire department has to that side of the bay. So if we're going to shut it down, let's shut it down at the trailhead and stop all the parking that's at the top.
Aloha mai kākou, o wau o Wainani na Pasloa. I am a lineal descendant of this area that you folks are proposing to do all of this. The most important part for me is the families it's going to affect when you have a 60-stall parking lot going up. My family lives right there. They don't want to see 60 cars or buses coming in. Now, we all know that Kealakekua is Hawaii. It's very special to us. I'm not only a lineal descendant, but I'm a cultural practitioner as well. We take our children down there and teach them about the cultural practices that we have. A few months ago, we had my auntie's service, right there. And it was really uncomfortable for us because, my cousins, they all grew up down there at the wharf. And how would you folks feel, okay, when we're trying to put our auntie to rest, and you have people on these cell phones calling the DLNR saying, what are these people doing here? There's about 50 of us, all family from down there. And they're making us feel like we don't belong there, but we have a right to be there. We do. And so until you folks can address and, really talk to the residents who live down there, the cultural practitioners who are down there, you guys cannot really move forward without that. Because the people who live down there carry the spirituality, the energy that flows through that day, because we all family from that area. So you folks need to make sure that before you folks start planning all these things, that you folks go door to door and talk to these, to all of the residents, because a lot of them will not speak. And I speak not only on my kupuna's behalf that have crossed over already, but I also speak for my, for my family that will not speak today. Mahalo.
You guys got 22 more minutes.
I wonder if we could have a show of hands. We've got 4 options. Let's pick one option each and have a show of hands and see what the preferred options.
Today, they're not looking at making any type of decisions to go forward. Today was to get input on the proposed plans, to get input before they make any type of decision. So,
I would contend that a show of hands isn't extremely clear.
that's not the purpose of this meeting. Yeah, they're still in the planning process, and they want to hear from people. It's not about making any kind of decision before today, sir.
Yeah, I'm a resident down in Napapo Village. I moved there over a decade ago. I live directly on Napapo Landing. So I came here with a really open heart, just trying to witness what this village was about, because that's why I wanted to be here. I didn't want to be here. I wanted to learn something from this place. So I've been watching, and I've seen what it's gone through in the last 10 years at my front door, ground zero. And I have seen incredible abuses of this bay. I have seen lack of respect for the people that live down there, for the families that have stewarded this place for a long time. Okay, I'm Howley, and I come here, and I want to learn something, and there's a tremendous resource down there that needs to be preserved. And you bring more people down there through any kind of park or parking lot, or try to facilitate outsiders, it does not enrich the village in any way, shape, or form. It takes away from it. It's really precious. I've heard the Hawaiians' testimony to that. I agree 100% with what's been said about that, with the flats and everything else. The commercial activity in the bay has only corrupted it. I have seen whales circled like covered wagons out there. I have seen the marine life harassed. I have seen people take and take and take and nobody give. And I think that's got to be the biggest consideration, is just, we need to stop the taking from this place and try a little love. The way people drive through the village, you know, just the abuses to the neighborhood, just the respect needs to come back. So I'm for no development down there at this point, and anything else.
Hello, my name is Gerard Buddy. My grandfather, it is a sacred area. It has a significant amount of mana there. The history is overwhelming. And once you make a change to it, you can't undo it. So I vote to do less than more. If anything, historical, but no commercial. We don't need more commercials. Every day, my wife and I go up and down Napopo Road. This morning we're going up there and a car is trying to park and he's still on the road. He doesn't get all the way off the side of the road. I cannot tell you what I would do if I had a big rig. Move all those cars off the road because it's an impediment, especially for the residents. We live right above about a mile, and I had to go through the permitting process to do a remodel on our home. We're in the special management area. Our Maka boundary line is the boundary line for the special management area. I had to make an 8-page report to report how come I'm building in a conservation area in that area. To me, we weren't impacting the bay or any of the facilities down there. We were just building on our home site. But culture, both of my wife and I are involved in the Hawaiian culture. She speaks. She's a fluent speaker. She teaches. She's an administrator of Benunu Kamalino. I am a retired policeman, and I work in security. But we see the traffic. And I'm for not encouraging it unless it's cultural based. Thank you.
lady lives right at the pier. When DLNR closed that pier, they didn't take into any consideration of where those people were going to go. And everybody here knows what the problem was like at that pier. Fighting every day, alcohol, drugs, keying cars, trying to charge them to park there. All of that activity that was in front of his house is now in front of our house. We live at the end of Manini Beach Road. They're launching 60 kayaks a day out of there. Half are legal, half are illegal. We put up parking signs. We went through a massive amount of stuff to get up no parking signs. Police won't enforce it. And like you said, I think they should close it down. Just shut it down completely. Get rid of the commercial problem. They're destroying the bay. There's carpet. There's so much carpet that has come off there, and it's documented. We have documents. We've given it to the government. There's pieces of carpet floating all over out there. It goes right out into the middle of the bay, and it's laying on the middle of the bay. And nobody does anything. You know, you just keep turning it in. No, they're out there holding turtles up for their tourists, you know, and they're advertising on the internet that you can come down and pet the turtles. This is completely out of context, and nobody does anything. So I agree with what this man is saying, and over here, this commercial thing has gotten out of control.
My name is Peter. I'm one of the practitioners of the Lord. Kaoloa, Napopo, regarding all of us. It was brought down. All the ohana that's here, they're all in here. But let's get to like the Japan tsunami. Where was everybody? Where was the state? Nobody was there. Only the people of Napopo village. The people of Napopo village were there, including myself. Ohana, my own machinery. The state couldn't even bring that down. We have to do it with our old equipment. But hey, when everything was nice and dandy, everything was clean, everybody was happy, all the Napopo village people were happy, then law enforcement comes out, they start enforcing us and telling us what to do. We lived there. We lived down there. Napopo is the pico of the kingdom of Hawaii. That's where it all started. Just like when you guys talk about the Knights of the Living Table. That's where it started, Kaapaloa. That's the Knights of the Living Table. That's our knights. That's our chiefs and our king from there. The village below, it's a cultural village. Historically, cultural village. You guys want to go over to Kaapaloa? Paddle. I don't care how you go, but paddle across there. Not all these motorboats going over there, all these people making money. You have 40, 50 people on a boat. And some of them, they go on the kayaks because they don't like being on a big boat. They go on, I'm a commercial operator. I have outrigger canoes. I put people on outrigger canoes, tell them about the history, the historical history of Kealakekua. They never heard before. I really oppose what they're doing right now. I know there's got to be infrastructure changes, but hey, just leave the place alone. Just leave it alone. Let everybody come to that area how it was before. We don't want no buses down there. We don't want no drive-ins down there, concessions down there, people fighting down there. We want it the way it was. We want people to go down to the wharf and not say, oh, sorry, bro, you don't have a key, you can't come in. We swam off their wharf, we dived off their wharf, we fished off their wharf, and now what? The state tells us we can't even go in there. We can walk in there, we can drive in there, we can go fishing there. People say, hey, you can't fish here. We were fishing there before they even inputted the state laws there. We were diving in there. And it's like, hey, if I want to go dive down there, I'll go dive down there because I have the right to dive there. Yeah. And if they don't like it, take me to court. That's right. Okay, I just want to let you guys know that, it's the people, it's Napopo village. That's what it's all about down there. Napopo village, it's a village. Right. Not Kailua town. Oh, right, exactly. Right on.
I'm Elizabeth Shaver, and I'm not a native Hawaiian, but I'm very privileged to be a guest here. And when I moved here, and now I'm a resident in Po'opo'o Village, and when I moved in and share however I can, I don't believe in the development. I think that we need to respect that there's cultural impact statement and a mandate to follow that. And so that's the question. How is that followed before we go into what type of development and who's responsible for that? Mahalo nui loa.
I've been here for these meetings for more than 20 years now. You keep hearing the same thing from us, and you keep coming back with the same unresponsive plans. Del Collins has been paid over the years close to $1 million to create plan after plan after plan that we don't want.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's taxpayer money. As far as I'm concerned, it's been thrown down the drain. We still don't have a workable plan, as I'm hearing from everybody here. I mean, if I was running a business and somebody was that lame, I would have fired them a long time ago. So I'm not even trying to, you know, I'm not addressing any individuals here. I'm just saying we don't really need Del Collins for this process. I think there's a lack of understanding in this whole process about what a true community process means. You know, it starts from the ground up. You need to identify who are your most important stakeholders here, and those are the Native Hawaiians and the residents of Napo'o Village. I had a very nice conversation with State Park Fellow over there who mentioned that we have to balance the needs of the residents and the needs of the visitors with this plan. Well, you know what? There's no visitor on the planet that needs to even visit Kealakekua. There's no documentable evidence that there is a need for any visitor to be here at all. So let's just throw that out. And this plan should start from the ground up, heavy consultation with the people who are the cultural and lineal descendants of this place. They should be the #1 stakeholders consulted with that $1 million.
In light of that, if there's concessions going to be involved in the future of all this, I sure hope that the state of Hawaii, the county of Hawaii will allow the residents the first priority over that area, bottom line. They live, you know, our job situation in Hawaii is so spread out. We've got people driving 160 miles round trip just to go to work. And we have a bright community at Napo'o down there that started something. Of course, it went south, but they started something, and I thought that was great. Finally, a community could generate money in their own community, and that's what we need. So allow the people at Napo'o have to have first priority or a concession as that comes to them.
Anybody else?
I'm a landowner down at Napo'o, right across the river. And I was very, very unimpressed with West Hawaii today's article. This person just mentioned. It gave me the feeling that, wow, recreation is now a priority. I mean, attracting visitors, kayaks, all of that. I have to admit that I was once involved in kayaks and things. I have to admit it, I'm no longer involved. And the reason I was involved for a short time was because I needed money to pay the exorbitant prices or property taxes that are owed for the lots that I have down there. And they're undeveloped for them. The reason because the title's all screwed up. And it costs about $20,000 for me to go to title research, another $30,000 to get a lawyer to take it to quiet title action so that I can use my property as collateral to build something, a little beach house. So, you know, this whole thing is a mess. I mean, it's just, I just feel that something is really wrong with this whole process. Everything is so exorbitantly expensive here, and I agree that if you look back at the research that has been done, all of the land transfers that occurred since 1893 were unlawful. And there's a lot of very professional legal people who are taking it to Europe, to Switzerland, to the UK, to Harvard, Cambridge, and they're doing a wonderful job in educating people about the legality of this land titles here. I'm saying this because all of us are going to feel or hear more about it. The other thing that really bothers me is that Kealakekua is being unrightly promoted as a place of recreation. Fine, a lot of tourists, they want activity, they want to have fun, and kayaking is a lot of fun. It's really an enjoyable thing to go out on the water, to see Kealakekua monument, but I think it's been overblown, and especially on social media and the internet. And I apologize for all those who are involved in kayaking commercially and permitted and everything, but I really feel sad with the way things are going now. There's just an explosion of mainland fever. California, kayaks, get the kayaks out there, get all those boats out there, tourists love it, money making. I feel sad for the people, my ancestors. They loved the small things, simple life, simple village life, to be able to go out and fish for your food, to do all the things culturally that they needed to do to survive. That needs to be brought up. And when I was down there doing my kayak thing, I talked to a lot of tourists, and a lot of them said, well, do you know of a bed and breakfast where they really, they have Hawaiian housing, like shacks that we can stay in, and natives that we can talk to who live in the old ways. I was just astounded that there was a need for that. But that's not really the point. The point is we are going through great changes. This is a really transitioning point all over the world where we have to come together and see what are our values, what are our priorities. Are we going to turn this into Southern California with kayaks and recreational places all over the place? We're going to lose something that is very special. I think the people down in Upper need to really get together, band together, and really hone in on what our value system should be. The value system has been hidden, has been covered up by all of this commercialism that's coming. I hate to say it, Western thinking, because I lived on the mainland, and I really appreciate Western thinking, but I also appreciate the indigenous ways, the Hawaiian ways. And I am Hawaiian, and my ancestors are from Kealakekua, were from Kealakekua. So I have to put something. That's my sentiment.
Gang, I know some of you still want to share again. All of the staff from Belt Collins and State Parks will be here. You can talk stories some more. There's comment sheets. It's a continual process. So please take advantage of that. We're at 10 to 4 now, so I'm going to start wrapping up this meeting. So, next steps. Who's closing?
When you guys do the math, 1977, I wasn't even born, and you guys were already getting the public involved. And there's still no plan. We're still talking about a plan. And in the meantime, day after day, the impact down there is just getting worse. Like she said, I mean, you guys are turning it into like a Disney World or a Disney, it's you know, it's not a playground.
We've done several
It's not a
rounds
playground.
of this EIS already, so I'm sure the information is on this. Want this?
The last thing we want to do, and we're trying to pull back that Disneyland aspect. That's why we closed the bay. And then we had to reintroduce access because there are legitimate reasons to provide vessel access. And we realized, and it is a balance, and for those of you that live next to the wharf, you guys were hammered by that industry that evolved around the tourist desire to float across the water. And Gordon is right. When we shut down access to Kavaloa to protect it, and contrary to what some of you said, Tracy, our archaeologist, goes out with the 3 permitted kayak guys in the Fairwinds on a quarterly basis, and part of their permits require that they do stewardship at Kavaloa Flats. I said, for the privilege of being able to use the wharf and the privilege, and it's a privilege. I truly feel that in my know-how. It's a privilege for commercial enterprise to land at Kavaloa Flats. And yeah, they pay us some money. It's not choke money. Fairwind's a little better. But in exchange for that, they got to put back in. And the companies have put back in. They've cleaned it up. Tracy has given me reports. Before we started the cleanups, yeah, the place was hammered and trashed. Now the amount of rubbish, the amount of bags, the amount of feces, all that junk, it's less and less and less. It's not gone. But Gordon's right. When we shut down kayak access to Kavaloa to protect it, it did increase the change in dynamic of the visitors coming down from the top. The other element is social media. Government has completely lost control of how we put out information as to where people can go. If you Google Kavaloa Flats now, or Kavaloa Trail, holy cow. I've heard some very interesting things from the county, and I appreciate the county, both of you folks stepping up. We purposely tried to keep this plan where we actually had some control, and where we could do control, but I will commit to you guys, the plan will have an element that we can work with the county as whenever we have to on this issue with the top and the bottom. And I'm not advocating we do it now, but I think it would be a big attention getter if we shut the trail. And I think, and I can commit that I would talk to this administration. I don't think we should shut it at our boundary because you'd have a whole bunch of people halfway down, 2/3 of the way down. They ain't gonna stop. They're gonna figure out, and they'll get more hurt. They'll get lacerated going on the lava on either side. So if it's time to rest that trail because of its impact to the people at the top, the closure has to be at the very top. And that's what we did with the bay under William Isla and the other administration. But due to maritime law and allowing vessels in, we couldn't keep the bay shut for a long time. But one of the good things that having this bay under the Division of State Parks is we could look at periodic closures. It needs to rest. The marine mammals need some respite from all this. But in terms of process, every one of you said a piece of something that I think is actually correct. But if you were really listening to each other, there's a lot of contradiction of if there's commercial, no commercial, do nothing, do something. And Brad over there, what he said is right. Every 7 years we give you guys 2 minutes. Yeah, that's really insufficient. However, we're stuck with this kind of process that we have to follow. The EIS is really important to me because it gives me the legal rights to put in whatever infrastructure, and I cannot debate whether or not state government is valid or whether or not we have title to this. It's not my kuleana, but I can assure you it's not my park, it's your guys' park. And my job is to try to move it into the future. I want to make a commitment that this is the last plan. If this goes out. From what I've heard today, I don't even know if you guys want us to do anything, but I can assure you doing nothing is not going to heal the bay. We have to do something. I don't mind shrinking the use down. We're not looking at this as a revenue generator. Any revenue that would be made here is to pay for the cost of protecting it. And it's dealing with that balance of how do we respond to this global demand to float in the water and snorkel, coupled with the impacts to the village, coupled with local economy, whether or not they should have a piece of the economic engine that drives that, or if we just put a big bubble on it and say, kapu to commercial use. Those are all viable options. They all have impacts, though, that we have to hold the bag on. a full-on kapu of all commercial use, you can imagine the combat lines that would draw on other things. And I'm not saying we're not up to it, but I am saying everything we do here, if we listen to each and every one of you has a different ramification that we're going to have to deal with. But you know, the first visitor was Captain Cook, and it didn't work out so well for him when he came down. Maybe it's time to maybe, you know, reconsider the relationship of this, and I meant it. It is truly one of our most valuable historic and marine resources, all in one package, which is what's killing it, because it's so damn attractive to the visitor industry. If you took out the whole visitor element, we wouldn't be here today doing this plan. I assure you, it's the visitor element that's driving us into this kind of need to plan, right? If it's just local residents, I think the use would be pretty reasonable. So
we have to live with it as the local stuff.
And you got to live with it, right? So,
Priority.
and you were right. Resource, residents, commercial. That's the hard.
Okay, to
So-
honor our time.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Thank you for this.
You guys can talk to him later. I'm gonna have Shane do a poulet.
Okay, and I'm going to hang out.
Yeah,
You guys
just
are free to
one
talk to me after.
thing here. If we're gonna really be true to chapter 343, we have to consider all of the cumulative impacts. Most important is a real cultural impact statement. If that process is followed, it will sort out a lot of these issues. Secondly, about putting a kapu on the bay, let's talk about the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room is the fairwind. You go down there and you see all that suntan oil, which is degrading the coral reef. Nobody has had the courage to say, you do not have this vested commercial right to make thousands of dollars off this precious and beautiful resource.
At least acknowledge the mahalo to them. Hopefully we can move forward. I know that we talked about no plans, but without any plans, there's no life. So we gotta be realistic about stuff as well as a community. And we all get our opinions, and we all respect each other. And mahalo, because this is one of the first meetings I ever attended since I was 13 years old regarding our village, that nobody would actually fight with each other. And so I gotta say that we're doing better, we're moving forward, we're taking steps as a family, as a community as well. So I'm gonna hold cool. It's not really a pule, but just to acknowledge our ancestors and our gods, especially during the time of Makahiki, which we shouldn't be planning stuff like that during Makahiki, but we'll hold cool a little bit, and then we can go our own way. Mahalo. E he au e nā apua, e nā makua, e nā hulu kupuna, e o wahi o kapu kapu, e kapu kapu o Kealakekua, o ka wahi o ka awaloa mai ke e. Aloha no, aloha no, aloha no. E ho po mai kai ke ala, e ho po mai kai ka ike papalua, e ho po mai kai ke wahi o kapu kapu. Mahalo for allowing us to come together, to share our thoughts, and to plan for some place that's very important for our kupuna, from our kupuna, given to us as our kuleana today. E ho ku'u halavai mai ka papa o keia wahi, mai ka papa o nā hulu kupuna, mai ka papa o